where is your check? And we looked at him. Check? What check? He said, where is the check? This is not my typical video, and many people who may know me personally will be surprised to hear the story, but I felt I had to share it to help a lot of people. It's something I don't like to talk about. It's an experience that really traumatized my family, and when it happened, I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed and traumatized that I couldn't even share it with a lot of people. Just very few people knew about it. But I know that today I really need to talk about it in details, so a lot of people can learn and share it with friends and family so they don't experience this. So the reason why I decided to share it first is I had an emergency yesterday, and I overheard someone talking about how it almost happened to her, but then a friend told her to take a particular step, and that step she took was what made her not to be a victim. And it dawned on me that there are many people that could be victims or are potential victims, and if I don't share this experience, they may end up becoming victims, just like we became victims of this fraudsters. And I said, okay, I just have to do it. I don't have to wait for a convenient time to sit at home and write a script and come online. No, this is important. And one of the reasons why I feel this is important is because I may decide to go home and wait. I may end up not writing this script for months, and it happens to many people. Then the second thing is the fact that I went on YouTube, home buying fraud, and there was really nothing out there, or I was scammed buying a house and there was nothing. I was alarmed at the number of people that may fall victim if I don't do this video, and I just decided to do it in my car. So sorry for the fact that it's in my car. I just dropped my daughter in school, but I just had to put this video out there. So how did it happen? My husband and I, so emotional, so painful. We're saving money to buy a house. We saved for 2 years. I think we saved for 2 years. During that period, we deprived ourselves of a lot of things, and the truth is, we're immigrants in America. We came here in 2018, so mid 2018, so we're barely over 5 years, but we decided to take up this journey 2 years ago. It was in the heat of high cost of houses and high interest rates, but we just chose to go on the journey and started saving. We raised our down payment, we saved our down payments, we saved our closing fees, and a little more. We also saved a little bit of an emergency fund. We both had emergency funds in our account, just, not so much, but we had something. And we knew it was time, and we started searching. We searched for months, and I think our realtor was tired of us because my husband had a standard. Why for me, I had my idea was just I wanted a safe neighborhood and good school. That was all I cared about. My husband had other standards, so the home buying journey took a little bit longer. Though many of our friends felt it was shorter for us because of the season we're buying. Many people took way more time to get their house than we did. We searched and searched. Sorry for the pause. It's something I don't like to talk about. So when I talk about it, I get a little bit emotional. And I think the reason is because of how long it took us to save the money. This was thousands of dollars. Almost, I would say 30,000. Yes. So we finally found a house and we're excited. Oh my goodness, that okay, this is the house. But during that season, that was last year, June, so many people wanted to buy a house too, so there were a lot of people that reached out to get the house also. Yeah, and the interesting thing about this house is, unlike many other houses we saw online, where the owner of the house would, or the realtor would, show the whole house, all the rooms, explain in details what the neighborhood is about and what the house is about. For this particular house, they only took a picture of just the outside, and that was just the front part of the house, and that was it. But I was just compelled that we needed to see this. When we told our realtor, she said she wasn't interested, not interested, that she had a tight schedule. I guess she was just tired of us because we've seen a lot of houses and we had to make a decision. We went on our own without our realtor this time, and we saw the whole house. Yes, it was looking old and all that, but it had all the standards. And my husband and I decided we're going to go for it. We also joined the bid with other people. There were so many of us, and based on the number of people, our realtor recommended a particular offer, which we placed on the house. At the end of the whole process, we were just two left, and what separated us was the homeowner wanted someone who was going for conventional mortgage, not FHA, and that was how we got it. So instead of going for FHA, we went for the conventional mortgage. I hope to maybe explain the difference between the two in subsequent videos, or if you feel I should talk about it, I can actually talk about it maybe in the future. You can just put that in the comments that you want me to talk about it. I actually would love to just explain the difference, but let me just get on with the story. We were excited when we got the house. We were really excited, and we started the whole process. So the thing about the whole process was, instead of using our bank, we decided to use a mortgage company because the realtor recommended this mortgage company, and all our communications were via emails. We got to know the lawyer that was going to work with us, the mortgage officer, and then the realtor. These were like the three main people we were working with. And then finally they introduced us to the closing company too. So we had the mortgage officer, the realtor, the lawyer, and the closing company. These four parties. But they were communicating with us via email, and my husband was actually the main person they were communicating with because he was the main borrower. So all emails and correspondence went through his email. So as the whole process went by, they had like this particular email trail that had like over 20 emails, or maybe 30, where there was this back and forth communication between the lawyer, the mortgage company, the closing company, and our realtor, sending back information back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And all this while we'll look at these emails, and you know the way your mobile phone is, when someone sends you an email, you only see the name of the sender, you don't see the email address. You have to go the extra mile to click on the email to see the sender. So that's the difference. So, but we had this back and forth email from these 4 parties I just listed. And once in a while, my husband will call the lawyer and verify a few things. I remember that the first payment we had to make was part of the down payment, just to seal the agreement. And they told us to write a check, and we did. And my husband called the lawyer, and then he went to give it to the lawyer in the office. That was just part of the down payment. So as the process went on, we had to also, now when we're done with everything, I don't want to go into all that details, I just want to talk about the scam. When we're done with everything, it was now time for us to make the final payment. But prior to that, we had different adjustments, because initially my husband was supposed to be the only person on the mortgage, and later they brought me into the mortgage, and then so many changes were happening back and forth, and all via this email trail. And everything seemed right, and actually everything was right until when we are at the final stage of the it's a whole complex, complicated, stressful process. So at this final phase, all we needed now was the balance down payments and the closing fees. This was a lot of money, almost $30,000. We had this back and forth email with the mortgage officer where they were trying to calculate the closing fees. A lot of back and forth email where she said, okay, once we get the closing fees, I think it's better for you to just do a wire. We even spoke to her over the phone, and she said, yeah, we're going to do a wire. But 2 days to that, we didn't speak with her over the phone. My husband was the person having this conversation with her via email, and we didn't actually speak with her over the phone. But because my husband had this already, he had information already that we're going to do a wire. He had spoken to her over the phone. Sometimes you could just get into the heat of the whole process and just be tensed. And I think that's one of the lessons I learned. Don't be tensed. Don't be overwhelmed. Buying a house is complicated. It's a busy time, especially if you go through this back and forth that we had. You had to go through a lot of back and forth. They had to bring me into the mortgage. Initially I wasn't in. Start the process again, do calculations. It was a whole lot. We even had to negotiate interest rate again to get our interest rate down by 1. So it was just a whole lot. It was really stressful. But my husband was the main contact person. So let me proceed. So in this final phase, we're supposed to pay for our part payment of our down payment, right? The balance of our down payment and closing fees. And based on the previous information, my husband received an email via the same email trail. That's the confusion. Via the same email trail, where the person stated that this is a closing fee amount, and it was higher than what we were supposed to pay initially, and my husband should go ahead and pay it and give the wire instruction. So I saw that email because I was at work, but I saw that particular email and I was like, this is too high. And I told my husband, can you confirm from the mortgage officer if this amount is correct? And then he reached out to the mortgage officer. He even forwarded the email to her. But I guess just like every other person, maybe she read the email from her phone and she said, no, this amount is not correct. I think we need to do the calculations again. But she didn't even tell us that who sent it to you. Though it was the closing company's information. She replied and said, I'm going to send you the correct one. And then she sent us the correct one. But when she sent us the correct one, she didn't send the correct one with the wire instruction. Then my husband replied the email again, and that was the mistake, and said, our mortgage officer just confirmed the correct one, but it was still in that email trail. And this is the correct one. And then the person sent the wire instruction again with that correct amount. And my husband went to the bank. And you all know what happened. He wired that money to the wrong account that evening in June. We didn't even know that it was the wrong account. He just told me he had wired it. It didn't even occur to me to tell him, did you call the lawyer? Did you call? I just said, oh my goodness, this whole process is over, because it's hectic and traumatizing. So for me, I just said, oh, thank God, this process is over. The next day we got all dressed. Was it the next day? Yes, the next day we got all dressed to go and close for our house, our first house, the house we saved a lot of money to buy, due to the fact that we really wanted to move out of the neighborhood we were living. We had little children and we just wanted them to have a good place to grow up. We placed ourselves under a lot of pressure. My husband was doing 2 jobs. I was trying to do 1 or 2 things along the way with my own job. So on the closing day, we were all dressed. We were sitting down in this room. We had our lawyer, we had the realtor, we had the closing company. They brought out this whole huge documents and we started to sign them. As we signed and signed and signed and signed and signed and we're done, they brought out the keys to the house, and then the closing company representative said to us, where is your check? And we looked at him. Check? What check? He said, where is the check? You're supposed to give us a check, remember? My husband said, but we got your email to wire the money. He looked at us and said, no, a check. You're supposed to present a check at the closing. And my husband was like, but there was no email to that effect to present a check at the closing. And then he said, usually what people do is you call your lawyer once you get your closing instruction. And we were like, nobody told us this. Nobody walked us through this process and said that at the end of this, you are going to pay with a check. My husband was hysterical. I was overwhelmed. I thought I was dreaming. Everybody started to panic. We were all panicking, shaking. We said to my husband and the realtor ran to the bank to see what they can do to stop it. That was another story on its own. Another traumatizing story, because the bank did nothing. In that moment, I was thinking of what to do. I called 2 people I knew that worked in the bank just to see if they knew anybody in this particular bank that we wired the money to. No one. We called the bank. They said they would not help us because we're not account holders and they cannot disclose any information. We called their fraud department. We called everything. We reached out to Wells Fargo to stop the wire. They claimed they did a wire recall, but we don't know if they did, because when you're doing a wire, you sign the disclosure that if you send the money to the wrong account, you're responsible for your mistake. I tell you, it was tough. They recommended we go report to the police. We reported to the police. We reported to the FBI. I remember the person we spoke with at the police station. He said to us that the amount involved is just around a little bit less than 30,000. Based on this amount, I don't think they're gonna investigate and really give this case what it requires because of the amount. But for you, this amount is a lot, because I can imagine what it took you to save this amount. And then he advised us, based on where you live, I can imagine why you want to move out. You've searched for this house, you found this house, you've deposited just a little for the down payment. I would recommend that you take out a loan and get this house for yourself. Just do whatever it takes legally to get this house, and then you can go through with this case no matter how long it takes, even if it takes you years. But don't lose this house. We looked at him in the face, and in that moment my husband said to me, we must get this house no matter what it takes. He was traumatized. We couldn't even sleep that night. I remember that we stayed awake all throughout, just looking at each other, quiet. I am somebody, if you ask my husband and people that know me, who can be very strong and strong-willed. Like, not really strong-willed, but I'm full of faith. When something negative happens, I just would have this strong belief that it will work out for my good, and that gives me this strength in the midst of challenges. But I tell you, I lost everything. There was no strength left. But I remember that night, as we were just lying down quiet, in my spirit I could hear the Holy Spirit just minister peace, peace, peace. And I held my husband's hand and I said, let's pray. And as we started praying, I just kept on saying, peace, peace. And he said to me that in that moment he felt supernatural peace and calmness, and that was the only way we were able to go to bed that night. So yes, we lost the money. We reached out to the FBI, and they started this whole process that I cannot really explain. It's a long story, but I just want to stop this video here. But one lesson I learned is that the house buying process is stressful, is overwhelming, especially when you have to go back and forth. But in it all, take it easy, calm down, make calls before taking actions. Make calls. Your lawyer is one person you must call every single step of the way. Please share this video. Please share this video. You are not just gonna help yourself, you will help someone else. Please share this video. I will continue the story in another video. I just felt I've spent so much time talking about this. I will continue this story in another video. So much to learn, so much to learn that will help many people.